Well, welcome everyone. I am Steve Savant. We're broadcasting live from the heart of Phoenix, Arizona on KXXT Family Values Radio. And I also want to welcome our online audience on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I want to give a shout out to Beyond Fear to Freedom, one of the best Christ-centered fellowships that provide a safe and loving community for women in recovery. Just go out to their site and check out their Friday night information. You should show up. It's beyondfeartofreedom.org. And you'll be so appreciative that you went. And they serve meals there at the front end and have childcare. So it's a pretty good thing for everyone to go to. And they have a men's group on the other side of that meeting. So if you're a guy and your gal want to go together, it's a great opportunity. Well, today and all this week, I'm going to be talking to one of my favorite people who I've known for 15 years. Oh my gosh. Cruz Lerma. Hi, Cruz.
Hi, Steve.
I tell you what, I've known you for 15 years.
Really?
I remember I met you on a trans port at the prison,
Yes.
of all places to meet, right?
Berryville, yes.
So yeah, it was great. Listen, a lot of people know who you are in jails and prisons here in the Valley. A lot of people don't know how you came to the Lord and the life that you had before. And what we're going to do, of course, as everybody knows our format, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're going to break down all the lives before we met the Lord. Thursday will be our show on how we came to the Lord, the conversion, and Friday we'll say, hey, what are you doing now? So let's talk about it. Cruz, where were you brought up? Where's your family brought up from?
We were Catholic. We were from Mexico. And we went to church on Sundays. And religion stayed at the church. It wasn't practiced in the house. Mm-hmm. So we grew up with, we were Catholics and we did the Catholic thing, but it meant nothing to me, really.
So when you were a young gal, when did you come to the States?
I was 10 years old when we moved here. So we came and we went to church once in a while. But when I became an adolescent, I kind of felt like those idols made of stone were useless. Mm-hmm. So I grew up and I stopped going to church.
What age was that?
I was probably about 12, 13.
Okay, so and how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I came from 12 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a big family.
So you have a lot of siblings.
Yes, well, one just passed away.
Uh-huh.
And so we now are about 8.
Mm-hmm. Your mom's still living?
Yes, she'll be 98 next month.
Oh my gosh, and she makes some of the best food I've ever had in my life. Cruz, what about your dad?
He passed away in 1990.
Okay, so how old were you then, around somewhere in that vicinity?
I was 27.
Okay, how bad was that
30,
for you?
30, yeah.
How rough was that for you?
You know what? I had just gotten saved, so it wasn't rough at all.
At that
because
time.
The hope that God gave me, it says, you're going to see him again. And he got saved right in his deathbed, so.
But you did not know the Lord until you came into it, what, age 30, you said?
At age 27.
Oh, 27. So when you got out of high school, what next? What was your life like? What was your whole idea of, what did you know?
When I was growing up, when I was living in Mexico, I felt different than the rest of my family. And I was more of a loner. I didn't have a lot of friends. I was like kind of isolated. I remember when I was probably about 7 years old, I used to have like dreams like every night that I was placed in this place being isolated. When I came to God years later, God revealed to me what it meant. He said that in my teenage years, because in that dream, I used to see myself as a teenager, set in this cloud, sitting on a rock sometimes, but I saw my face and I was very lonely. It was like in a waiting period. And God revealed to me that in those years, as I saw myself as a teenager, that he was going to put me like in an isolation. I was going to be isolated from the world. That's why I didn't have any friends. I was a loner and very depressed. Because, being a teenager, all these emotions and all you want to find purpose and direction. That was my whole life as a teenage girl, and I couldn't find it. And I became very depressed, very lonely, but my family wouldn't see it.
And what number are you in the 12 children?
I was second to the youngest.
So your mom's already been through several children now.
Yes.
It's hard to give you the attention probably,
Exactly.
right? Now, when you're living like this, I mean, your brothers, some of them, from your testimony I've heard you before, they're kind of into some nefarious activity, some things that they shouldn't be into.
Yeah, all my brothers went into drugs, and they sold them, and some of them used them, and that was from teenage years up to...
And did that ever tempt you to go that way?
No, I felt just the opposite. I hated what they were doing. I hated because they brought a lot of chaos. And what hurt me the most was seeing my mother hurt, crying like every night for them, especially when they would get arrested. They would call the house in the middle of the night. And my father was, we should leave them there. And my mom said, no, we got to get them out. Well, they would get them out and they would go right back to that.
There was times when your house was raided and they came into
Many times.
Yeah.
It was like every other week the narcs were throwing the doors down and through the windows.
And for you, though, you were a little girl, so are they coming into your room asking where your brothers are?
Well, I didn't have my own room. We lived in a 3-room house, so I had a little suitcase, a squared one. It used to be for cosmetics, and I used to have my pencils and my things, and I used to lock it. Well, when the narcs came in and they opened it up and they broke it, and that's what hurt me the most.
All right, so they're messing with your stuff and you have nothing to do with this.
Yeah, exactly. So they would come in, and one time I was standing outside by the porch, and me and my sister, and all of a sudden all these narcs invaded our home, and we're standing outside, and they pointed a gun in the back of me. I was probably about 12, 13 years old at that time. And I felt the gun, and he said, put your hands up. And I did. And I was like, what's going on here? But I should have been used to it, And so they said, pull your sleeves up, because they were checking for marks on my arms. And I said, okay, sit down. And so many stories about stuff like that.
So you're used to this invasion, basically, and you're not even part of this scene. You're just part of the family, and this is what's... Okay. So... This is, what does it say to a 13-year-old, a young gal just on the verge of heading into her teenage years? What does this do to you? I mean, you're already isolated. You tell me that you're kind of a loner, and you don't want to start doing dope to get friends, so what do?
You suffer through it, and you wait, because that dream, there must be a purpose for it. It was like, I have to wait and I have to go through whatever I have to go through. And I remember my little sister. She's 5 years younger than me. And as we're growing up, I told her one day, I don't know why, but I feel like something's good is going to happen to us if we just stick with this. If we just wait. I don't know, but I know that there's something good coming for us.
And God was not on your thought on this. You just had
I just had this thought in my heart, something good will happen, something good. So I just waited and waited. And in my teenage years, I finally got a job when I was like 18 years old. And I bought a truck. And I used to, in my loneliness and my desperation, trying to help my mom was the focus. And I hated my life. I wanted to kill myself all the time. The thoughts of suicide were constant. So I remember one time.
But can I stop you just before you go?
Yes.
What's causing this? Why would you want to take yourself out? What's the thing that is driving it underneath it? I know you said you're lonely, you're depressed, but is it just the whole family atmosphere? Your brother's in trouble all the time? Are people leaving you alone?
Yeah. I hated life. I hate the way my life was going and my family because there was no love in it. And you know what kept my sanity most of the time is television. Watching the Brady Bunch, I Dream of Jeannie, something that would make me laugh and feel like I belong that. And I wanted a family like the Brady Bunch. Everybody got along and everybody enjoyed life. And mom and dad gave me the attention that I wanted. Of course, they were hurting, so they couldn't give me any love. They just had to learn to survive. So my thoughts were, I want a family like that. So I didn't see it in there, so that's why the thoughts were coming, you know what, this is not even worth it. Why don't you just kill yourself?
From Brady Bunch, which is upper middle class, affluent America, and you're living in a 3-bedroom home. Or is it a 3-room home or a 3-bedroom home?
Three-room home.
Three-room home with all these kids, right?
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of money to go around.
Not even.
Not even.
Nope.
So do you think you're really undernourished too? You have no food. You have a lot of times you're
No,
just
we
short.
had food.
You had food.
We always had food. God always provided. That's what I see it now, that God always, my mom was a great cook, is a great cook. Well, she doesn't cook much anymore. But
I know, but I can attest to it. I've been over there. So
yeah, so she always had food, 3 meals a day. And she did everything, and she took care of she was a wonderful mom. She knew how to provide for us, not emotionally, because she was hurting herself. And my dad was always working. So he always brought something. And when my dad didn't have it, thank God for my sister, whose husband worked in the produce in Nogales, Arizona, and he would bring boxes of vegetables.
Wow. When we come back to the second part, we're going to talk more with Cruz Lerma. If you think about children being exposed to dope at this level, loneliness and depression, it's amazing how people just get through high school, barely get through high school, and go on to live a productive life. When we come back, we're going to do part 2 of our first episode today. And while you're thinking about it, consider that if you're going through this, you want to listen to every single episode this week so you can hear the answer that Cruz will give you. Commercial. We got 60 seconds.
What?
You got 60 seconds to rest because we got a commercial. Try not to tap your hands on the table.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You can put them on the table, but your demonstration with this hand. So just
okay.
Sorry. Stories how they broke the destructive cycles in their lives by the power of God and moved on to a new life in Christ. For more information about Friday nights, just go out to their website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. If you can't get to BFF on Friday nights, or you don't live in the Phoenix area, you can stay connected
So
by
for
joining
15
BFF,
minutes.
subscribe to
It's
our
only
radio
15 minutes.
weekly study guide,
It's
so you
30.
can
We just did the first half of
just sign
episode
up
1.
today on BFF.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're going to be here for a bit.
BFF.org. And don't forget to listen to BFF's weekly video podcast with Debbie G and Sheridan. Their own life experiences and their biblical influence will overhaul your thinking, your identity, and your future. They'll keep you encouraged with some great insight and biblical truth. Just friend them on Facebook or go out to their website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. BFF, where you might just discover a best friend forever.
Well, all this week we're unpacking Cruz Lerma's story, and so you won't want to miss a single episode. And don't forget to check out BFF's Friday night meeting at 5:30 for food and fellowship, and some of the best sharing at 6:15 that you're ever going to hear. And I love it, childcare is even provided. Go out to their site at beyondfeartofreedom.org. Check out where the location is and everything else, and you'll be able to go and fellowship with some of the finest women you'll ever meet on either side of the Lord. People that are struggling and coming, people that are already found the Lord, everybody. There's some seasoned vets in there. You'll want to go and check it out. Hey, when we're talking with Cruz, now I've said before, I've known Cruz for 15 years. We're both volunteers in a lot of the incarcerated facilities here in the Valley. And we have seen it all in prison. Isn't that right, Cruz? I mean, we've seen it all. And thank God you didn't have to do time, right?
Thank God, yeah.
I mean, your brothers have been having mix-ups with the law. Most of the time, younger family members follow with the older crowd, with the older brother and sister, the siblings, and they're actually not a good influence and a good example. They're actually a bad example, and they influence their younger sisters and brothers to do things that they do. But you didn't go down that road. But when you're sitting there thinking, I'm trying to think about how life could be so depressing at 15 or whatever you said, 13, 14, that you'd think about taking your life.
Right. Just to let you know this, 5 brothers and 5 sisters. All the brothers went the wrong way, but none of the sisters went in that direction.
That is so strange. What do you think the reason is that your brothers went south and your sisters stayed straight, fairly straight?
Well, I remember one time my mom told me that my father, before he met my mother, had a woman who he had 2 kids from her, and I guess my father, it didn't work out the relationship, and one time that woman came and knocking on my mom's door, and she said when she came in, she wanted to come in the house, and my mom said no. I says, well, I need money. I said, we don't have any. My mom and dad were poor, and she wanted something, and so my mom couldn't offer anything because she didn't have anything. And so when the woman turned around, she cursed my mom, and she told her, your boys will never grow up to be anything. She put a curse on my brothers. She spoke a curse over them. And when she had told me that, I had just gotten saved, and God revealed to me years later that that curse came true because none of my brothers, their efforts never came to anything. So it was pronounced, and I told my mom after I got saved, we need to break this curse, Mom. Of course, she didn't understand, but I prayed over them. And, God spoke to every one of my brothers, and God gave me a prophecy over my brothers that they were supposed to be evangelists. But they refused because pride is very, very prominent, especially in the Mexican race. They're very proud men. And so they're still struggling right now.
Well, when you think of what they're doing and going through, and that didn't happen to you, the sisters, you and your sisters, it's pretty profound that this other lady really said things that she quarantined it to just the male gender in your family. I mean, that's kind of wild in itself. Tell me about when you're thinking about did you graduate from high school?
Yes, I did.
And was high school good for you or not good for you? Or
I loved school. That was my refuge. I loved, when we first got here, I was 10 years old. I went to the 4th grade. They put us in school. I thought I died and gone to heaven because when you went to school, we went to PE. I loved PE. They had, all kinds of activities that they had for us. And I used to look forward going and play, learning how to play volleyball, baseball, and every activity.
This wasn't available in Mexico?
No.
No, none of this.
None of that. Especially, giving you the bat and the mittens and the balls and all that. That was, to me, was like heaven. And then food. You eat at school, and it was like, wow. So I loved going to school and learning. I learned the first thing that I learned in English was they were celebrating Martin Luther King's. And that one of the teachers got one of the students to teach me how to say Martin Luther King was a man of peace. So I learned that saying, and so the girl taught me. So I learned that was the first sentence that I learned in school when I first arrived here. Martin Luther King was a man of peace. Peace, P-E-A-C-E, and I still remember it. But I loved school, and I couldn't wait to go to high school, and man, it was a new vision for me.
I mean, you're coming with no English. How long did it take you to pick up the language?
I picked it up real quickly because as a kid, 10 years old, I loved it. I loved it, and some of my sisters had a hard time with it because they were still stuck in Nogales, Mexico. Some of them, even my mom wanted to go back. I didn't. I loved it.
And writing too, does it take a little longer?
Nothing, because when you find something that you love, you put your whole focus on there, and nothing can deter you from what you want.
Okay, so you graduated from high school, loved school. Did you ever think about college?
Yes, I got two scholarships to go to college, one for the U of A and one for ASU. But you know what? I was clueless about the value of these scholarships, so I lost them. Because I didn't know, nobody counseled me about what I had gotten. I just remember one day when I was in my senior year, and we were at lunchtime, and one of the counselors was walking by as I was walking with my friends, and he said, "Oh, Cruz, by the way, I signed you up for 2 scholarships." And to me, it meant nothing. Whatever, I didn't know. And I remember when we were going to graduate, we had an awards assembly, and they pulled me out of my 4th class and says, "Go to the auditorium. They're going to tell you what to do." So they sat me on the stage with, I think it was 6 other people. I didn't know that they were calling me because I was going to receive the 2 scholarships.
Now, when you thought about this, and of course you don't even know what they mean, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, what are you going to do with your life? You're out of high school. You're not going to go on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, are you just going to try to find a job? And you're still you're still staying out of trouble, right? You haven't really gotten into bad things yet.
Well, I was a loner.
Mm-hmm.
But what I wanted to do after high school, I had two things. I either wanted to be a police officer or join the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the recruiters, and one of the recruiters really wanted to help me to go into the Navy. He wanted me to be a yeoman.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what is that? He says, well, you ever seen the Love Boat? Yeah, you know Julie, the one that's the steward? You're going to be like that. Oh, yeah, and the Love Boat, you know. I was very innocent. And so he was helping me. So he got me to almost to the last step. But he kept testing me because he wanted me to pass and get to the place where I needed to be, you know, educationally. And I kept being tested. And so he got transferred and they assigned me another recruiter. He didn't care about me like the other recruiter did. And so he just says, well, you're not going to be in it, so you might as well give it up. And so I did. So I started trying out to take the police academy, to join the police academy. And by that time, I was already working at the airport with the police department. And one of the sergeants was helping me. You know, says, you got to pass the test. And he was going to put in a good word for me. And I flunked it 3 times. So I went for DPS, Department of Public Safety. And I tried with that too. And I could not pass. I mean, I always fail at a different level. Now, the first test was the written, so I took it and then I passed it. And then I took the other test, which the physical agility test, and I was like less than 100 feet from the deadline to go in and make it, and I sprained my ankle and I failed the test.
So you had a heart for law enforcement on a couple levels here, and even for military service.
Yes.
Now, it's my understanding, I don't want to get too far ahead of your story, but it's my understanding you did some military time with Israel, of all things, right? Is this too far ahead of your story? All right, we'll wait for that, and more on that tomorrow maybe. So you've had these things. How does this strike you? You know, because you're trying to get in it, you're not making it. Do you feel devalued because you can't make this?
I feel rejected. I felt a lot of rejection. I felt like a real loser. And it just fed my purpose to kill myself. Nobody loved me. Nobody cares. I'm a failure. I can't seem to, I strive to have a career, to go do something with my life. Nothing.
And when you went through this, did you actually make an attempt on your life?
I would cower out. Because when I went up to South Mountain, I would take my truck and drive up there, and the thoughts would come, the thoughts, where do they come from? And I know now it's the devil. I can say it now. It was the devil trying, why don't you just end your life? Why don't you just drive over and get it over with? You're a loser anyway. Nobody loves you. And all these thoughts. And then another voice would say to me, what about your mother, Cruz? She has had all these kids, and none of them have done anything to make her proud of. Look at your brothers, all those,
Sure.
And so it says, and even if you do, you'll probably end up handicapped. You won't die, and your mother's going to have another burden. And so I just said, okay, I won't do it.
Well, when I think about this, you may be saying to yourself, hey, I've lived the life of isolation and loneliness. So listen, you want to check out that BFF meeting on Friday night. There's a lot of people that have went through what Cruz is talking about right now, and you could fellowship with people that actually know what they're talking about and have experienced it. And remember, childcare is provided as well. For more information, just go out to their website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. And so until next time, I'm Steve Savant. No one's outside the reach of God. No, not one.